Hello, good evening to you all. You know, it never fails to amaze me. It never ceases to amaze me that when I, a black man, try to communicate in the best way, in the best light to Anglos about, my life and what I got going on and this, that, and the other, they don't care. They don't care. They don't really care at all. And the fact that I dropped expletives and called people certain things that were true based on their history, based on American history, based on my current history and current situations. That's exactly what's going on. Yet, everybody wants just to look the other way. Just like all this pedo stuff that keeps coming up every time with Republican candidates or people that are in the Republican Party. Why am I always having to see somebody of the Anglo origin affiliated or associated or synonymous with pedophilia? So anyway, we're busting down all the myths and all the fakeness that the Anglos wrote, that the line of Japheth wrote from Gomer in the scriptures. We're busting this all down. And the latest thing that we're going to unpack is the Genesis creation account. I really want to look at that and link it to African cosmology. So what I'm looking to do is link biblical creation, African cosmology, and even the Western calendar spiritual inheritance to America. We're going to unpack that carefully layer by layer. All right? I told you who I am, told you my name, and this is the reason why I'm able to do this, and none of those other liars are telling you this. So, we'll start with number 1, the Genesis creation account, the foundation of biblical cosmology. In Genesis chapter 1 through chapter 2, creation unfolds in 7 stages. Days 1 through 6, literal days. God creates order out of chaos, separating, forming, and filling. Day 7, God rests, sanctifying time itself. I mean, it's in the creation account. You guys know that, right? So this is not just physical creation. It's spiritual order being brought into being. Each day symbolizes a domain of divine authority, culminating in Sabbath, completeness or divine balance. We're going to move to the Western society's days of the week, rooted in pagan deities. Excuse me. Our modern American week, the week names in English, descend from Greco-Roman gods, mixed with Germanic Norse deities. All right? Greco-Roman gods mixed with Germanic Norse deities. We're going to go through each day of the week. We're going to go through the origin of that day, the deity that day belongs to, and the realm. Okay? The first day is Sunday. The origin, Latin, dies solus. The deity, the sun god, Sol or Helios. The realm is light and vitality. Sunday. Monday. Origin. Dies Lunae. Deity, moon goddess, Luna. The realm, cycles, emotion, reflection. That's Monday. The day, Tuesday. Origin, Dies Martis. Deity, Mars, Tiv. The realm of war, courage, justice. Wednesday, the origin, Dies Mercury. The deity is Mercury, or Odin. The realm is wisdom, speech, and travel. Thursday, the origin, Dies Jovis. The deity, Jupiter, or Thor. The realm, power, authority. Friday, Dies Veneris. The deity, Venus, Frigg. The realm is love, fertility, and beauty. And the last day, Saturday. Deus Saturni. The deity, Saturn. The realm, harvest, limitation, and time. You can already see that the days of creation in Genesis mirror these in an inverted or redeemed spiritual pattern. In day one of creation, light parallels Sunday, the sun, illumination. In creation day 2, the firmament, waters divided, reflects Monday, moon, emotion, tides. Creation day 3, earth and vegetation echoes Saturday, Saturn, agriculture. Creation day 4, heavenly lights ties to Wednesday, Mercury, cosmic order. Creation day 5, fish and birds tied to Thursday, Friday, life, fertility, and love. Creation day 5, creation day 6, humanity created in God's image, contrast with the pagan gods, asserting one divine image rather than many. Day 7, rest, Sabbath, rejects the endless labor cycles of pagan gods, symbolizing divine communion. In short, Genesis seems written in dialogue with surrounding ancient worldviews, redefining their cosmology under one God. We're going to move to category number 3, African creation parallels and spiritual typology. African cosmologies vary. There's Yoruba, Aiken, Congo, Dogon, the Egyptian gods, goddesses, etc. But they share profound themes also echoed in Genesis. So we're going to go through all the African traditions, their creators, the key themes, and the Genesis parallel. So we'll start with the first African tradition of Yoruba. That's spelled Yoruba. The creators in Yoruba are Olodumare, supreme being, with Oshikaras like Obatala, shaper of humans. The key theme is divine order descending from heaven to from earth. The key theme for Yoruba is divine order descending from heaven to form earth. The Genesis parallel is the Spirit of God moved over the waters. That's Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. The second African tradition is Congo or Bakongo. The creators, the Nzambi Mpungu, created the world from water and light. The key theme, life from light and motion. The Genesis parallel, let there be light. And the third African tradition, Aken. The creators, Nyambe is the creator, and Asai Ya, Earth Mother. The key theme, balance between sky and earth. The Genesis parallel, God formed man from dust. The fourth African tradition is Dogon or Mali. The creators, Amma creates the universe from an egg of order. Then twins emerge. The key theme, cosmic order and duality. The Genesis parallel, separations of the heavens and the earth, male, female creation. Interesting. The sixth African tradition, ancient Egypt. The creators, Atum or Ra, emerges from none, primordial waters. The key theme, creation from chaos by divine word or breath. Genesis parallel, and God said, the spoken creation. Across Africa, creation is both spoken and shaped, and often involves water, light, breath, and balance. Same metaphors that Genesis uses. We're going to move to the fourth area, typological connections, which is basically a spiritual mirror. If we read topologically or spiritually symbolically, Genesis' single creator transcends the many gods or the motive, suggesting oneness beyond multiplicity. So Genesis basically tells you, or the Holy Bible tells you, there's one God. There's one creator. Where other creative or societies in our world would depict that there are many gods. And that is not what the Bible teaches. Yet, we'll move to the second area. Yet, each day of creation could be seen as typologically echoing the domains pagan and African deities represent, but redeemed and unified in one divine act. In that sense, Genesis absorbs the symbols of light, fertility, order, and breath, but assigns them to the one true source. My summary thought: so yes, there are spiritual correlations and typological echoes between Genesis and the African gods: light, water, fertility, and breath. Between Genesis and the Western planetary gods, there's order of time and creation. But Genesis reframes the monotheisticality. Not many powers at war, but one power ordering all. In essence, Genesis is a typological reordering of the world's gods under one divine creator, turning mythology into theology. So, what I want to do now is map each creation day, 1 through 7, directly against specific African deities, like Yoruba or Egyptian ones. Let's show their spiritual correspondences to the Genesis order. That's going to give us a visual topological chart, if you want to say it like that. So what we're going to do now is build a spiritual topological chart that compares, number 1, each day of creation in Genesis; number 2, its symbolic meaning in biblical theology; number 3, the parallel African deities or cosmological principles, mainly Yoruba, Congo, Dogon, and Egyptian traditions; and 4, the underlying shared spiritual archetype. So we're going to start with a topological comparison between the Genesis creation account and African cosmologies. African cosmologies are African deities or gods that created the cosmos. So this chart that I put together has the day of creation, the Genesis theme, the biblical symbolism, the African deity or principal parallel, and the spiritual typology and correlation. We have each day of creation, 7 days here. All right, we're going to start with day 1, light from darkness. That's Genesis account. That's Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. The Genesis theme: let there be light. Light separates from darkness. The biblical symbolism: illumination, divine order, consciousness, and awakening. The African deity or the principal parallel: Egyptian Ra or Atum emerges from the primordial waters of Nun, bringing light. Congo Nzambi Mpungu creates light and breath. Yoruba Olodumare sends divine energy, Ashai, to order the cosmos. The spiritual typology or the correlation is that divine awareness pierces chaos. Light is not just physical, but spiritual consciousness. The same creative spark in both Genesis and African cosmology. Creation day 2. Separation of waters from sky. Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 through 8. Genesis theme: God divides the waters above and below, creating heaven, the firmament. The biblical symbolism is establishing cosmic boundaries and spiritual hierarchies. The African deities or principal parallels that mirror this from the biblical account is Mawulisa, Fawn tradition, separates sky and earth. The Egyptian Shu, the air god, separates Nut, sky, from Gerb, or Geb, earth. Dagon Amma separates twin elements of creation. The spiritual typology is that it represents spiritual order and balance, the first act of divine distinction. Heaven above, earth below. Creation day 3, land and vegetation. That's Genesis chapter 1, verses 9 through 13. The Genesis theme, land appears. Plants, trees, seeds grow. The biblical symbolism, fertility, nourishment, generative life. Excuse me. The African deity or principal parallels, Asisi Ya, the Akan earth mother. Umoja, Umaja, Yoruba goddess of life-giving waters. Geb, Egyptian earth god. Spiritual typology and correlation, the earth as womb of creation. Genesis and African thought both see life as sprouting from sacred earth infused with divine essence. Creation day account number 4. Sun, moon, stars. Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 19. The Genesis theme, lights placed to govern the day and night, seasons and signs. The biblical symbolism, time, cycles, order, and governance. The African deity or principal parallel deity is Ra for the sun, Khonshu for the moon, the timekeeper. Man, these names are really difficult. Orunmila Ifa, Yoruba Orisha of divine wisdom and destiny. Dogon Nomo represents cosmic order through stars. The spiritual typology or correlation is divine intelligence orders time and fate. Light becomes guidance, not just illumination. God appoints heavenly rulers, much as African cosmologies assign Orishas to govern cosmic forces. Creation day 5. Fish and birds. Genesis chapter 1, verses 20 through 23. The Genesis theme, creation of creatures of water and air. Biblical symbolism, life moving in, freedom and multiplicity. The African deity or principal parallel, Olokun, Yoruba, god of deep waters and mystery. Oya, winds, transformation. Mami, Wata, West African water spirit of fertility and change. The spiritual typology or the spiritual typology or correlation for day 5. Spirit and movement. Breath and water are symbols of freedom, prophecy, and transformation. God populates the unseen realms, air and sea, with spirit-filled beings. Creation day account number 6. Animals and humanity. Genesis chapter 1, verses 24 through 31. The Genesis theme, earthly creatures and mankind made in God's image. The biblical symbolism, dominion, divine image, reflection of God's nature. The African deities or principal parallels, Obatala, Yoruba Orisha, who molds humanity from clay under Olumodare's command. Khnum, Egyptian ram-headed god who fashions humans on a potter's wheel. The spiritual typology or correlation, humanity as divine reflection and co-creator molded from dust with divine breath. Genesis and African myth both portray creation as sacred craftsmanship. Now, creation day 7, divine rest, Sabbath. Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. The Genesis theme, God sanctifies the seventh day. He rests. The biblical symbolism, completion, spiritual balance, sacred rhythm. The African deities or principal parallels, Olorun, Yoruba aspect of supreme transcendence. Mayat, Egyptian order, balance, rest. Nzambi Mpungu, Congo, withdraws after creation, letting creation sustain itself. The spiritual typology or correlation, rest as restoration. The creator steps back so creation can harmonize. Divine peace after divine labor. A rhythm of eternity enters time. So, In summary of our typological parallels, we're going to go through the concept, the Genesis view, the African view, and the spiritual core. The concept is creation from chaos. The Genesis view is the spirit moves over the waters. The African view is the cosmic egg or primordial waters. The spiritual core is that creation begins in divine motion. The second concept, light. The Genesis view is let there be light. The African view, divine radiance, Ra or Olumudare. The spiritual core, light equals divine consciousness. Number 3, human formation. That's the concept, is human formation. The Genesis view, dust plus breath of God, Ruah. The African view, clay shaped by divine hand, Obatala or Kunu. The spiritual core meaning of it all, humanity as vessel of divine spirit. The fourth concept, divine rest. The Genesis view, God rests on the seventh day. The African view, creator withdraws into transcendence. The Mayat or Nizambis. The spiritual core, rest equals cosmic order fulfilled. So, let's go to my interpretation. Genesis doesn't copy these systems, but it reframes, we'll start over. Genesis doesn't copy these systems, but it reframes them monotheistically, where African cosmology distributes divine functions among many beings. Genesis unifies them in one creator. The same spiritual archetypes, light, water, breath, earth, wisdom, appear across both, implying that the divine truth was reflected through many cultures, each expressing a piece of the whole. So, what I want to do is take this one step further. I want to make another image showing the 7 Genesis days alongside the African deity counterparts and symbols, which would be light, water, vegetation, sun, creatures, man, and rest. It's going to look like a sacred cosmological comparison map. I wanted to know personally, and I looked into these things. Hey, it really just kind of calculates 6 days, and then it kind of gives you, hey, God rested. I wanted to know, like, in ancient cosmologies, in visually condensed aspects, charts, the Sabbath, what is it, right? It's often omitted because it's not a physical creation act. But in a typology, it's absolutely essential. So we're going to compare the cycle properly. Day 7, divine rest or completion. The Genesis theme, God blesses, the Genesis theme here is that God blesses and sanctifies the 7th day. That's Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. The biblical symbolism of that day is that completion, harmony, and spiritual wholeness is culminated. The African parallel is that the god Mayat, the Egyptian principle of cosmic balance and truth, or Olorun, Yoruba transcendent creator, both represent equilibrium and peace after creation. The typological meaning is that the creator withdraws into rest, allowing creation to live in divine rhythm. It symbolizes cosmic order fulfilled, like Mayat establishing eternal harmony. So, if we were to expand the visual chart, the 7th section would feature a symbol, a balanced scale, sun at rest or circle, eternal wholeness. The deity parallel would be Mayat, Egyptian, or Olorun, Yoruba, and the spiritual message would be rest as the final act of creation, perfection and balance. I want to just say this. In America, we have a big problem. There's a lot of favoritism, partiality, whatever you want to call it, to the elite. This is not a black issue. This is not a white issue. This is an American issue. The elite that live here are elite to themselves and to the other elite. But what I have run into, what many of you have run into, are issues with Anglos. And a lot of them are devoid of understanding spiritually. They say with their mouths, but their hearts are far from the truth. And I don't say this with an ill heart towards all Anglos. I say it with an ill heart towards the Anglos that are reluctant to look into their past, reluctant to renounce these curses over them that continue to curse me. And if you're from their lineage or you're friends with them, and you jump on my thing, I'm going to roast your face off. Because it's not fair that you get to come on my page, persecute me in life right now, continue to watch me suffer and do all the things that you do, and live life and say, oh, Jesus Christ bless me. No. You think you're blessed. Lazarus knew he wasn't blessed, but then he was blessed in Abraham's bosom. The rich man knew he was blessed in life, but then begged and cried to Abraham on the other side of the chasm. It's fixed. There's no way to come from over there to you and from you to them. So for those of you that continue to persecute the chosen of the Most High God, whether that's me or others that look like me, or that are Latino, or that are indigenous, man.